Yes. What's going on, guys? My name is Tranzcendent, and I would like to welcome you to Tranzcendent Outlook. Thank you so much if you're tuning in, if you're watching, if you're listening. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate your support. Today, I'm super excited because I'm interviewing an artist here in Bridgeport, and in Bridgeport, I feel like there's a rich culture of art, and although that culture is rich, I feel like with other podcasts that I've done, I've only interviewed one other artist, right? And so today I'm hanging out with Alicia, and I hope that we can kind of dig into the art culture here. Of course, we're going to get to know her a little bit more, but I really want to dig into the art culture here in Bridgeport and the importance of it and kind of like the impact that it's having in the communities here in Bridgeport. So without further ado, Alicia, what's going on?
Hey.
So like I said, I'm super excited because I don't do this often enough. I told you before the interview, I kind of told you that I've only interviewed one other artist, and that was Ricky Mestre, and that was a few years ago. It was a super fun interview. Ricky is a super fun guy, somebody who's been doing art all his life, literally. I talk about him all the time because I say that he's very blessed because he kind of like discovered his passion at a very, very early place. Like for me, like I was 32, 33 when I knew what I wanted to do. So I think I want to start with that. Like when did your kind of like love, or when did you know like art is your thing?
Kind of like Ricky, I've always known.
Yeah.
I've always known. I was born an artist. I've actually been asked that question before. Like, when did you create your first painting? I'm pretty sure I was in womb. Like, I feel like I've said in previous interviews, I feel like I was in womb, like in the amniotic fluid, like, drawing or painting. I've always been an artist, to be honest with you. I don't remember a time in my life when I was not an artist. I remember being as young as 3 or 4 and just sitting on the floor with crayons and paper, creating like this dream, with the rainbow over the house and the picket fence and, the American dream.
The American dream.
Yeah. I was drawing that very early on. And I really don't remember a time not being an artist. So I think the question would be, when did you stop? Because I think there were periods in my life.
Like little gaps?
Yeah, man. Okay. There were periods in my life when I stopped realizing that I was an artist.
Yeah.
And those were some of the most difficult times in my life.
We'll get to that in a bit. But so from early on, you're coloring and you're doing that kind of stuff. But no disrespect, but all kids are doing that, right? At an early age, right? Yeah. So when do you is there a specific memory of like when you're like, this is like, I'm an artist? Yeah. Is there a specific or no?
Yeah. So what's interesting is when I was in elementary school, I had an art teacher who most people honestly, like she was a very direct person. She wasn't like this like soft and fuzzy individual.
Yeah.
But she was one of my favorite people in the school because she was so straightforward, and she saw something in me that I don't think anybody else really noticed. Like at home, things were rough. My parents were going through things, and I'm from a family of 4, and I'm an only girl. So a lot of times I felt like I was kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
But this teacher, plays would come around, and I was put on the scenery for the play, right? And they would put me on a scenery for play, or we would be making little clay beads, and she would come and spend a little extra time with me, and she would say to me, you're really talented. You have a special gift, and I absorbed that because she made me feel seen and heard during a time when I really didn't feel seen or heard.
Got it.
And when she kind of, spoke that into me, I was like, wow, maybe I am an artist. Maybe I am talented this way. And so I started to tap into it. So anytime I got the opportunity to create, I was with it. Like, oh, I get an opportunity to create or paint or draw. And that was honestly how I processed my feelings.
Okay.
That was, when my parents went through their divorce, drawing, painting, it always went back to that. So art is like my first love, to be honest with you. It's the first thing that heard me, saw me, gave me the opportunity to express myself freely.
So many things going through my head right now, just all over the place from everything you just said. But just something, I don't want to forget this. You said you were creating, and so just a quick question, and maybe I don't know if you could decipher this, right? But is there a difference between a creator and an artist? And if there is, what would you say it is?
That's a good question.
It is. I'm like...
And I think that honestly, the process of creation happens on all levels. Even if you think about somebody who is left brain, when you talk about left brain people, they're more logical, they're more scientific, they're more mathematical. You talk about people with right brain like myself. I mean, we have both, obviously.
Yeah, we
can't function without both. I do think that they're the same, but also different. I think the process of creation happens in science. It happens in math. It happens in art. I think art specifically is creating, for me, art is creating from a place higher than myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people look at my artwork and be like, oh, it's beautiful. And I'm grateful that people receive beauty when they see my work, but also I consider myself a vessel.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I don't take credit because it's coming through me, but I also understand that it's a gift that's been given to me, and it is a privilege to be able to have that gift and put it into the world. So I think creation in general, I don't know that creation in art, right? Or a creator and an artist are one and the same, because people in general are creators.
Yeah.
All people are creators of something. Artists, I think, specifically create from a deep place, from a spiritual place. For me, that's what it is. So I would say they're the same and different, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. No, it does. And that's what I was thinking when you were saying it.
Yeah.
But let's back up a little bit and let's talk about young Alicia, right? So you told me before we turned the cameras on that you're not from Bridgeport, right? And then for some reason, we had a conversation maybe a few months ago, maybe, I don't know, was it like last summer or something?
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit at the Bijou Theater,
it was
right?
when we were at the Bijou, yeah.
And for some reason, I remember you saying that you were from New York, but you're not from New York.
No, God, no, I'm not from New York.
Is your boyfriend from New York?
No. I at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time.
So maybe that's what it was?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
that's probably what it was at the time.
Okay.
So then it wasn't last summer. It was actually a couple summers ago.
Maybe it was. Yeah. Okay.
You're probably going back to 2020, to be honest with you, when masks were heavy.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually not from New York. I'm from Stamford. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut originally. I was born and raised in Stamford, and I was in Stamford until I was 20.
Okay.
Couldn't afford it anymore, like so many other people.
I was gonna say, was it this Stanford when you were born, or when you were first coming up? It probably wasn't this Stanford.
Not this Stanford. The Stanford that exists right now is not the Stanford I grew up in. I go down there now and I'm like, what is this? There's so much more there now. It's like a little New York now. That's what it feels like. It feels, it just feels very full. More people. It was a town when I grew up there. It's a city now. So a very different energy, a very different vibe. And I remember for a long time when I moved here, I was like, man, I miss Stanford just because I was so used to it. I wouldn't live in Stamford now. I like to visit. I like to visit Stamford. I love Bridgeport. I tell people all the time, I'm a transplant, but I've been here for 25 years and I've grown more in Bridgeport than anywhere. So I'm genuinely, I'm a transplant, but I tell people all the time, Bridgeport is my city.
So I love it. So, so you're one of four, the only female, right? The youngest?
No, I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that? How was it growing up with no other girls?
Man, it was rough. A lot of times it was rough. A lot of times it was really cool. Most of the time I was just trying to be one of the guys, to be honest with you. I didn't like being an only girl. I felt like I was always, in the times when people did pay attention to me, it was kind of like she's this delicate little flower.
Yeah, don't do it.
No, she's fragile. She's going to break. And I was like, even now, like as an adult, I'm a little rough around the edges. I definitely can step into my feminine, but when you grow up around a lot of masculinity, you become rough. I'm a tough person. Like I'm pretty resilient. I had to be resilient growing up in a house with 3 brothers. It was cool though. But it was definitely challenging trying to find where I fit.
Your place. Yeah.
Trying to find my place in the mix. And then, my parents also split up when I was really young. Okay. So that was another thing too, trying to find balance in a single parent household. My mom trying to just make things work, trying to make ends meet. And me and my brothers are fighting. And so it was interesting being an only girl, but I think there were a lot of advantages to being an only girl too, because I did get that, that extra sensitivity or that extra attention that my brothers didn't really get. So it had its pros and cons, I think, just like anything.
Were you expected to be, and I mean, I guess you kind of already said it, but more like a girl, so more like cooking, more like cleaning type of thing, or no? Okay.
I didn't grow up in an environment where there were a lot of gender roles, to be honest with you. Okay. My mom was very much surviving.
Okay.
Raising me and my brothers. We grew up in the projects of Stamford. Everybody sees Stamford now, and it's this ritzy little town. I grew up in the hood. Okay. I grew up in the hood.
Listen, I worked. I don't know if I tell you, but I worked in Stamford for about 8 years at the courthouse. And I've seen people from both sides of the track.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I grew up in the projects in Stanford. You know, shootouts were unfortunately it was a regular part of our existence growing up. And so, you know, a lot of what happened in my household was survival. It was gender roles wasn't a thing. It was, you know, get in where you fit in and stay safe.
Nice.
You know what I mean? That was pretty much, and also, you know, I grew up in the 90s where there was a lot of like illegal activity in my neighborhood, a lot of drugs and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, outside of shootouts, we never felt unsafe. Like, strangely, the dealers in the neighborhood kind of looked out for the kids in the neighborhood. So a lot of people, you know, they look at it like, oh my God, I can't believe you grew up in that environment. The shooting was crazy, yes, because it, you know, it's dangerous. But when it came to, you know, an everyday existence, you know, we didn't really feel unsafe. It was our norm. Yeah. You know, so a lot of people look at it like, oh, it's crazy that you grew up in that. It was a norm.
Yeah, I think anytime you look at it from the outside in, it's that way. Because even for me, you know, I grew up on the East Side, Pembroke Street, like, you know, it was crazy. Yeah. That was home. Yeah. You know, and even like I left, you know, I joined the Army and I left. And every chance like I got to go on vacation, I was in the East Side. Like that was home, you know.
You came back to where you came from. You know it.
And so, you know, even when people said, oh my God, you know, and it was like, no, like I feel strangely, I feel safe here. Like I'm okay here. You know what I mean? So I get it. And so what happened that you ended up kind of, you know, migrating this way?
Stanford got crazy expensive. Okay. The neighborhood, you know, this wonderful thing called gentrification happened.
I knew that was coming.
The gentrification happened. And this, you know, rich, you know, property, this rich company came in and bought out my hood. Yeah. And they were renovating the properties. Yeah. And as they were renovating the properties, they basically were like, hey, at that time I had just had my daughter. So she was a baby at the time. Okay. And they were like, we're going to offer you this little stipend. I want to say it was like
to get out.
$3,000, $3,500. It wasn't a lot of money. Yeah. But you know, when you grow up in the projects and somebody throws $3,500 in your face, it seems like a lot of money. Yeah. And so they were like, you know, we'll give you this money to leave. Yeah. Because they wanted us out. You know, they wanted the people who lived there out so that they could
come in and do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Come in, you know, clean slate, get some different kind of people in there.
And you saw it as an opportunity.
I saw it as an opportunity to get out of the hood. Yeah. I did not want my daughter to grow up where I grew up. I didn't want her to see the things that I saw. Even though I felt safe growing up, once I got old enough, I realized that it wasn't safe. And it's not something that I wanted her to experience. And I was a mom now, and that was beyond me. So for me, that was seed money. Because the next thing I was talking about was buying a house. Yeah. And at the time, Bridgeport was the most affordable place to buy a house. And so we started, and we were hearing all these crazy things about Bridgeport. Like, oh, don't go up there. It's a crazy city. You know, everybody dies there and there's all these killings and, you know, these preconceived notions that I had. And then, you know, I looked at her dad and I was like, what do we have to lose at this point? I wasn't making any money, but I was adamant that my daughter was going to grow up in a way that I didn't. Yeah. I was determined to make that happen. I think I was making like $7.25 an hour at a temp company at the time, to be honest, like customer service.
Well, we're talking like 90.
My daughter was born in 90. My daughter was born in 97.
So this is 98, 99.
Right. Yeah. So this is 98. She was almost a year old at the time. And we started saving up money, and we took that little seed money and we were putting other money on top of it. And we're like, we're going to take that money. We're going to put it as a down payment on a house. Yeah. And so we came to Bridgeport and started looking for houses. And I went to the north end of Bridgeport, and we honestly looked at houses all over. Yeah. And we found a little Cape style house on the north end of Bridgeport, tiny little house, perfect for our little, you know, at the time there were the three of us. And I think the house was like $149,000. Imagine a house right now. This was a 3-bedroom house for $149,000. And it was almost impossible because we weren't making a lot of money. Yeah. And it took us 6 months to get a mortgage, but we came up here, we bought that house, and that was our first home here in Bridgeport. I was 20 years old. Yeah. So, you know, that's why it took us so long too, because they're like, she's 20, she's buying a house, she doesn't make a lot of money. Yeah. So, you know, they had to use the probe to go through all the things. But eventually they gave us the loan and we got the house. And that was how I ended up in Bridgeport. It was really an affordability thing and just, you know, trying to make sure my daughter had a safe place to be. Yeah. And that's how I ended up here.
And so you come here, obviously it takes you a little while to get a house and kind of get settled in. When do you start to kind of get involved? just in regards to kind of your art and you know and all that good stuff?
It was years, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I was here and I was focused on raising my family and working, and that's pretty much what I did. It
What
was
do you remember if at that time the art community was kind of
I wasn't involved in the community at
okay?
all. When
I
I
don't
tell
so
you, I was commuting to Stanford for work because even though I moved out of
you were
Stanford,
still
I still
working.
worked in
Okay.
Stanford.
Yeah.
So we were commuting to Stanford for years.
Yeah.
I want to say 4 or 5 years we were doing that commute. And so I was kind of sheltered and I didn't really tap into the community. I didn't
Okay.
really know much about the community. I want to say uh, in I want to say around 2005, 2006 is when I started to discover
Yeah.
that there was a creative community in
Yeah.
Bridgeport. And ironically, I was going through a separation at the time. And I
Okay.
started to meet other people and be introduced to like other artists and these small like underground venues, poetry venues. And there was this underground community that was existing. And then I found out there were like buildings
Yeah.
where there were studios where artists had like studio. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
imagine having a studio space
Yeah.
where you can just go and create art. It was such a far-fetched idea to me to have a space,
Yeah.
a studio space. It was not realistic for me. I didn't grow up in an atmosphere that ever told me that that's something that I could do.
Yeah.
So coming to a place where they actually had creative communities, they had buildings dedicated to artists was wild to
Yeah.
me. I was like, wait a minute. So these people actually like have a
That's-
studio
Yeah, and that's what they do.
that they go to and they create in every day. I was like,
Yeah.
imagine that. Because the idea of being a full-time artist was not realistic.
Mm.
And so it wasn't something that I tapped into. So I worked, in and out of customer service positions for years,
Yeah.
and that was kind of my existence for a long time. And right around 2006, 2007, I was introduced to, at the time, a venue called Lyrical Voices.
Okay.
And it was a poetry and art, a platform.
Yeah.
And the person who was running at the time, Shauna Melton, who was a really well-known Bridgeport artist, Shauna literally was like, bring your art. Bring your art. And I was like, no, I'm not bringing my art into spaces for other people to see. At the time, they were therapy for me.
Yeah.
I had just started painting again. I didn't even know I could paint, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because before, my thing was drawing.
You draw, yeah.
So I started painting as therapy to get through my separation and an eventual divorce. It was just, I remember when my parents divorced, art was the thing that got me through it. So when I started going through my separation and divorce, I was like, let me tap back into the thing that period of time that I was talking about was so difficult.
Yeah.
The whole time I was married, I really didn't do anything with art.
Okay.
It was all work. It was work and family and home and commuting. And that's what I was dedicated to. And I everything that meant anything to me on a personal level, I put on the back burner because being a mom and wife took priority, and a homeowner, I had mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
There were things that I had to take care of. And so art was, it just was something that I put by the wayside. So when I was going through my separation and divorce, I remembered what it did for me mentally and emotionally. And so I was like, let me tap back in. But this time I was like, I wonder if I could paint.
Yeah.
And I was in Walmart one day and it was in the clearance aisle and I saw this little like 12 by 12 canvas and this little, acrylic paint set. And it was on clearance. And I have extra money at the time. I think the canvas is like $4.
Yeah.
And the little paint set was like, I don't know, $3 or $4. I was like, I could spare $7 just to see if I could paint.
Yeah.
And I brought it home and I looked at it for a long time, not even knowing. I was like, I don't even know where to begin. I said, you draw. So draw on it first. And there was this picture of Billie Holiday, the one of her singing, the famous picture of her singing with her mouth, the mic being there. And I was like, I want to paint that. I'm going to try to paint that. And so that was what I did. I was like, let me paint this picture of Billie Holiday. And I sat at my dining room table and just kind of held it in front of me. And it took me a couple weeks, I want to say, because I questioned myself the whole way.
Yeah. Like,
do I know what colors to use? I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to shade or blend or, I don't really know the right way to do this. I'm just making it up as I go. And when I finished, I felt like it just felt great. It felt great to go through the process of creating. It felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. It just felt like therapy.
Yeah.
And so I decided to keep doing it. And again, this was through my separation. This was through my divorce. And I just decided to keep doing it. And it was such a beautiful gift at the time. Because I really didn't know how else to express the feelings that I was having, and that's kind of where it started.
So I'm assuming from what you said earlier, so you kind of started to stack them up, right?
they weren't stacking, but anytime I got an opportunity to get a canvas, because
Yeah.
I didn't have the money to.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you weren't at that point. You're not painting and showing them. You're just kind of hiding.
I was,
you're
yeah, they
stacking them
were
up.
in my room. I was
Yeah.
creating, they were in my
Yeah.
room. And then, you know, I got this message and it was like, bring it to this venue. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then the next thing she gave me was really powerful. And I hold it to this day. She said to me, you know, God doesn't give you a gift like that to keep to yourself.
Yeah.
And it hit, when she said it, it like hit me. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Now I felt bad. Like I felt guilty. Like I'm doing this thing and I have this thing, but this for me, you know, in my mind, it's for me. And going to the poetry venues, hearing people spill their souls on the mic, whether it be, you know, through rap, whether it be through spoken word, like this was their form of art. This was their form of painting. And I thought to myself, and I also, you know, I would get on the mic every once in a while because a poem will come out of me every once in a while. But my biggest focus at the time was just getting through what I was going through on a daily basis. And so, you know, I showed up and I actually decided to bring the work. And it was so well received. You know, it wasn't this big crowd of people. It was a very intimate setting, but everybody was giving me these positive vibes. They were like, you know, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that you did this. And I was like, nobody knows, you know? And that was the beginning of me starting to really take myself seriously as an artist, because it was really a hobby for me. It was just something to get me through. And then when I realized that what I was doing was affecting other people, you know, in ways that I hadn't even imagined. I was like, okay, I should probably pay attention to this. And then the body painting started. And when I started body painting, that was just a whole nother realm, you know, that just opened up something else for me and the people that I was working with that I didn't even consider, to be honest with you.
And how did that come about?
Body painting?
Yeah.
So I had social anxiety, believe it or not.
Okay.
I could not talk to people. I had a hard time talking to people. And I come from this ginormous family.
Yeah.
And we had Super Bowl parties where 250 people show up. We rent out a gym. Like, if you believe this, my dad's family is huge. It's the Cobb family. If anybody knows the Cobbs, they know it's a gigantic family. Yeah. And, you know, they would rent out a gym. And I would go there and my family's like, oh, I haven't seen you since you were this big. And I would always be like, I would struggle with communicating.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't know how to talk to people. I had been sheltered for so long and I really didn't know how to communicate. So I had social anxiety and I got these little cheap paints from like Walmart, and I would park myself on the bleachers and paint all my little cousins.
Yeah.
Just stars, hearts, cheeks. And I loved the connection that happened without having to say a word. So the brush to the skin, and I just say to them, what do you want? A heart, a star. It was all simple stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a connection that happened that I hadn't experienced before, to be honest with you. It gave me the ability to connect with people without having to say a lot.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me at the time. And it kind of grew from there, because then I would do like other family functions in the park and people come up to me like, you do kids parties? And I was like, oh my God, why are they talking to me?
Yeah.
And eventually I started saying, you know, I'll do kids parties. And I started like getting paid to do face painting at kids parties, and I got better supplies. And then one day I was like, I really want to paint a whole person.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was such a thing. I just thought it would be really cool to use a person's body as a canvas to create fine art. And so that's exactly what happened. There was a local upcoming photographer named Johnny Housen. Okay. And Johnny was like, if I could find you a model, you gotta let me take the photos. I was like, okay. Okay. Yeah. And he did. He found a model for me. Lolly, she's also Bridgeport native. Like Johnny, these are all people that are here in Bridgeport. So Lolly volunteered to be my first model. 7.5 hours standing in my living room. I had no clue what I was doing. I had these tiny little brushes and like, I don't know, 5 or 6 colors. And we just did something completely abstract, not knowing what it was going to turn out like. And he took the photos of her, posted them at the time to Facebook. This was in 2009. Yeah. Posted them on Facebook, and I started getting messages from Quinnipiac University. Get out of here. UConn. That's crazy. African Student Association, Black Student Union wanted me to come and like participate in fashion shows and stuff that they had going on. And I was like, wait, this is a thing. And I started getting hired to
That's
like
awesome.
go to these places and
Yeah.
paint people for shows and stuff. And it kind of just blossomed from there. But the beauty of body painting was being able to connect
Yeah.
to people in a way that I hadn't before. It's a very vulnerable position to be in. To have, you know, a stranger, essentially, literally you strip down.
Yeah.
And have a stranger paint you. And I, you know, to this day, I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
I've been contacted by a lot of people wanting to do, you know, things that don't really, they're not in alignment with what I do. I'm not into objectification.
Yeah.
Especially as a woman who's been objectified. I don't enjoy the idea of objectification. So when people contact me with, you know, events that I feel like are objectifying, oh, can you do it? No. And I, you know, I've always, I did one event where that's what it felt like the whole time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an event where anybody was completely nude or anything like that, but it felt like these women were being painted specifically for objectification. And I vowed to myself that I would never do it again after that because it didn't feel good.
Explain that to me. Explain what that means.
It meant like these women, I'm painting them, and it was for the entertainment of the male gaze.
Yeah.
You know, in the room. Mm-hmm. And that's been something that I have had to deal with my entire life as a woman. Mm-hmm. As a curvy woman, a woman, you know, my body has been objectified my whole life. And so body painting has very much helped me to come to terms with that. It's helped me to connect to other people. It's helped with body dysmorphia, not just mine, but other people's body dysmorphia. So the objectification to me, it's like the body is entertainment. Yeah. So in many ways, you know, body painting, a lot of people would say, but isn't that what you're doing? Yeah. I see the body as a canvas that I'll create fine art on. Yeah. So when I'm creating on a body, it's not for the purpose of objectification. It's for the purposes of highlighting the beauty of the human body and what it does for us on a daily basis.
And how do you know the difference? Like if I call you and say, hey, I have an event coming up, what are those kind of trigger words that I may say to you? Say, oh, you know what? No, this is not where I want to go.
Okay, so, you know, somebody will contact me and say something like, we're having an event where we have some ladies that are going to get painted and there's going to be a bar crawl and, you know, you're going to be taking shots off of them. And
you're like, no.
You know, there's just certain things. And I'm not anybody that does it.
No, of course.
I actually don't knock it because to each his own. Yeah. For me, you know, I feel like when you are a person who deals with any level of trauma, stuff like that can reopen, you know, and not only for me, but for other people in the room. And so I'm very careful and intentional with the way that I move when it comes to art. And I feel like it's a heavy responsibility. Yeah. A lot of people think, you know, art is like, oh, that's cute, you're a painter. It's a responsibility. Yeah. There's a heavy responsibility that comes with being an artist, because what are you putting into the world? Mm-hmm. What messages are you putting into the world? And I'm a deeply spiritual person, and what I get anytime I feel like something, if it doesn't sit with my spirit, I'm out. Yeah. I just, you know, and I'm a very intuitive person. So I can tell.
I was gonna say intuition is so important. Yeah. And I talk about that a lot, you know. I think your intuition, your body knows you better than anybody else. So when you get that gut feeling, like, go with it.
Absolutely.
Because most of the time it's correct, you know?
Absolutely.
And so on a lighter note, talking about trauma, you know, I tried to paint myself once.
Really?
Oh my God. And I guess there's paint that you should do it with and paint that you shouldn't do it with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it was, oh my God, it's like 2011 or something, 10. And it's Halloween. And I decided I want to be a Smurf for Halloween. So I got some white sweats, you know, because they had the white pants.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And I got like the white hat. Yep, I don't know what kind of hat, I don't know what you call that hat, but the white Smurf hat. And then I went on Amazon and I got blue paint.
Was it like blue acrylic paint? Like what kind of paint?
I don't know what I was doing, clearly. And so I painted myself. And as I'm painting, like, I don't know, my arm or something, I don't know, as it's drying.
It started getting a little itchy?
It started getting a little sticky. And so as I'm moving, like, it's just ripping all I'm not a hairy person, but like my little hairs, and it was just like a mess.
Oh, that was latex.
Yes. And I'm like, I was late to the party because then I'm in a bathtub trying to get it off of me and it wouldn't come off me. Oh man, so that's my trauma when it comes to body painting.
Man.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Latex is not what I have to. I mean, there is latex. They do use latex on the skin, but if you're using latex, you have to shave, like get all the hair off.
The when I purchased it said that it was good for body, whatever, and that pictures there, people wear it, and I was like, all right, good.
Yeah, they should have told you to shave first because it could be painful. It could be painful. And also the other thing is too, a lot of people have latex allergies. Yeah. So if you're unaware that you have a latex allergy and then you put it on your skin.
Well, thankfully it wasn't that, but it definitely was bad. So I ended up being a fair skin Smurf.
Oh my God.
But what do you call it? No, that's definitely super cool. So let's talk more about the community, the art community here. Yeah. Because so now you start to get involved, you start to open up, you start to bring your work so others can see. And we're not talking about selling, right? We're just talking about just so other people can see it. Or
this wasn't for selling at all. It was just I didn't even at the time, when I first started, I didn't even know that was a possibility.
That wasn't even a thing. So we just bring it so people can see it. Yeah. And now did people looking at it and you getting all these positive affirmations and kind of feedback, did that kind of push it to say, I want to do more of this?
Yeah, it did. And not only was it, people's response, but it was also my response. Because every time I created, I felt more myself. Yeah. I felt more alive. And so if I'm doing this thing for me, and I'm bringing it into the world and people are having a positive effect from it, they feel good about it or it makes them feel good. I'm like, wow, that means that something about what I'm doing matters. Yeah. And so not only did it speak to me and kind of, help me to find my voice again, but it was also speaking to other people in a way that was unexpected to me. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is probably something I should be doing more of. And at the time, I'm a mom and I'm still, I still got mortgage to pay and I still have all these other things to do. And so I was stuck kind of in this liminal space at one point. When I first started with art, it was literally just therapeutic for me. Yeah. And then the more I did it, the more I realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I was getting that through intuition. My gut was telling me, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I didn't know what that looked like. I had no, how do I create a career out of this thing that is therapeutic for me? Like, how am I going to make money doing that? Because you can't be in society thinking, this is, before I learned anything about manifestation, or the kind of law of attraction and how you actually create the world around you. You know what I mean? And I didn't understand any of that at the time. Because like my mother, I was trying to survive. I had 2 kids to take care of. And so for me, it was just focusing on survival and just kind of doing this as a hobby at the time because it made me feel good. And the more I did it, the more I realized it was what I was supposed to be doing. And so eventually I made the very radical decision to jump off a cliff and grow my wings on the way down. Yeah. And the Bridgeport community had a huge, huge role in that decision because, like I said, I've grown more here than anywhere. I was surrounded by this amazing community of people who were speaking life into me, who were encouraging me and telling me, that what I was doing was necessary. Okay. And so for me, I was like, okay, then if it matters, then it matters. Yeah. And I should do something about it. And so January of this year marked 8 years since I jumped off that cliff and became a full-time artist.
So you ended up kind of meeting people here that were very similar to that. What was it, 4th grade teacher or?
She was my art teacher from kindergarten through 6th grade.
Oh, okay.
She was my art teacher, for my entire elementary
school.
So
it was like you met that person again here, but in the form of a community, right?
In the form of a community. It was these people speaking life into me, giving me a platform, helping me to, express myself creatively. Yeah. And I didn't really have that before. I didn't even understand what that looked like. And there were times when I had tried to pull it out of myself, but we're not meant to do things alone. You know what I mean? No matter how much we try, no matter how much we believe. Yeah. Right. And I traveled that road where I was trying to do everything by myself and it wasn't working out for me. And so when I started to find people who were like-minded and not like-minded to the point where they just allowed me to stay on BS, right? Yeah. Like if I was on something crazy, bringing people into my life that call me out. Yeah. When I'm on, I'm not on track, but also who are able to speak life and encourage me, and vice versa, like reciprocity in these relationships. And they've grown even more rich and more beautiful in the years since. Like I said, I've been here now for 25 years. So in the 25 years that I've been in this city, I've literally watched, I've had ebbs and flows just like everybody else, but my community has grown so strong and so beautiful. And my role in community has grown, in a way that I would have never even seen my life where it is now.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Well, talk to me about some of the adjustments that I'm sure you had to make when you decided to kind of, take that jump, the leap of faith.
What adjustments didn't I have to make?
Like, are we just having like, is it like no more turkey or ham? Is it just straight bread and mayonnaise?
I mean,
like,
we were honestly, what's interesting is if you talk to my kids, they'll tell you they never, when it came to material, food, shelter,
they never felt it.
They never felt it. And it wasn't because I had it.
No, yeah.
It was because I was really good at stretching dollars, and I was really good at making sure they had everything that they need. So, any sacrifices that were made would be me.
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, if anybody's not going to eat tonight, it'll be me.
Yeah.
And it was because they didn't make that choice. They shouldn't have to suffer for the choices, the decisions that I'm making. So adjustments that I had to make was, pickings got slim. Ham and turkey wasn't a big thing for us anyway. We didn't have big, expensive meals, but, I definitely had to cut back on some of the luxuries that we had. Cable, that was one of the first things to go. I didn't really like what was on cable anyway. So, I started to look at kind of the expenses of the household and decide, what could we live with and what could we live without?
Yeah.
And I had to be honest with them about it. I had to have conversations with them about it. Look, guys, this is something I'm deciding to do. Mm-hmm. I talked to my family about it at the time of my divorce. My brother, we had a large ranch style home, and my brother lived downstairs. And I'm gonna be honest with you, my brother held it down during the time that I was in this transition. My brother, he's my youngest brother. And to this day, I would not be where I am without him.
Yeah.
He really supported the decision in a way that I could not have even fathomed. My whole family, honestly. I was like, hey guys, so I'm going to quit my jobs. My jobs. I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to stop getting that steady income to become a full-time artist. And even my dad, who is a laborer, right? My dad is somebody who grew up as a provider. My parents are boomers.
Yeah.
So for them, it was all about survival. It was all about provision. And my dad, who I was convinced was going to be like, are you crazy? One Christmas I went there and we're sitting there and I said, Dad, I'm quitting my job. And he looked at me and said, you're going to pursue your art full time? And I said, yeah. He said, good for you. And I broke down because it's so unexpected. I was completely thinking he was going to be like, you are out of your mind. You got 2 kids to take care of. My family supported me through and through in that decision. And when it comes to adjustments, I had to make adjustments for sure. But I'll be honest in saying it was rough, but because I had a support system, it was beautiful. And I'm blessed that way. A lot of people don't have that, so I know and understand to this day. My family shows up, if I ask them for something, if they, what are you going through? You have shows coming out. They're not as many events, now, because it's so frequent. It's like, it's like to the point now where we can't keep up with you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily art shows, but, just little things that I get involved in with community and, my teaching, because teaching is a big part of my life right now. So my family, they support me. Sometimes from afar, they'll just be kind of like in the ways, clapping for me. And my dad, and my mom, they're aging.
Yeah.
So, coming out and doing a lot of, they're still young, but they're aging to the point where it's like, I'm not coming out to a show at 9 o'clock at night. That's past my bedtime, that kind of thing. Yeah. But I had support. So the adjustment it was necessary. I had to, pivot and do a lot of things that were different, but also I tried to maintain as much normalcy as possible because there was a lot of transition happening for my kids at that time. They were going through a divorce with me and their father. They were going through their mom making a career change, like while they were teenagers. Like, who does that? While you teenagers are like going through life crises on a daily basis, and you just decide you're going to change your career. But it was really important to me that they know that their whatever gifts they were given, they could use those. And so, my decision to do it was kind of layered. One was definitely for my kids, just so that they could see something different. I didn't want them to believe what they were being told, because I realized it was a lie for me. So I'm like, I want my kids to see something different. I want them to know, get your education, go, but it's not, get your education, get a good job, buy the house, get the picket fence, be stuck with debt that you're going to have to be paying for the rest of your life. Like, this is what the system is created for,
of course.
and when I started to realize that, I was like, wait a minute. You could have all of that. You could have the house, the white picket fence, the beautiful quote unquote American dream, but you could be miserable.
Yeah.
And everybody I knew that had the American dream was miserable.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute.
And I think that's the reason why for the last year or two I've been wanting to interview you, because I feel like when we talk, we connected so much. And everything you're saying now are things that anybody who listens to me or knows me are things that I say all the time. I talk about the American dream and how the American dream to many people is the house, the white picket fence with the dog and the 2 kids and whatever. But for me, the American dream is just happiness. And if you have to be able to have both, right? You should be able to have the house, but also the happiness. You can't have one without the other, right? And so when you talk about it, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I say all the time. Like, all those things are great, but if you don't have happiness, then what is it worth, right?
Yeah, like if you think about it, okay, if a house makes you happy, like some people really don't even want houses. They just think they do.
Yeah.
Because that's what society says makes you successful.
Yeah.
I had a house. I had 2 houses.
Yeah.
They didn't make me happy.
Yeah.
Being an artist makes me happy.
Yeah.
Having a space to create makes me happy. Having community makes me happy. Having a relationship with my family, being able to connect to other people, those are the things that bring me joy. Those are the people those are the things that bring me happiness. Making a difference in other people's lives, inspiring people.
Yeah.
When most days, just like everybody else, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I follow my heart and I follow my spirit, and that's what brings me joy and happiness. You could do that anywhere. You could do that in a shack on sticks.
Yeah.
You could do that in a trailer, a renovated bus.
Yeah.
You decide what home looks like for you. And for me, a house is great. I'm not knocking it. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've had the house, I've had the car, I've had the picket fence, I've had all of that.
Yeah.
It didn't make me happy.
Yeah. No, I get it. Now, when you talk about parenting, I wonder, like, I mean, your kids are grown now, right?
Yeah.
But can you think back at, as you're raising them, can you think back and maybe tell us a little bit about, maybe whether it's consciously or subconsciously, how you following your passion and your love, how that may have affected your raising of your kids in a positive way?
That's an interesting question. And I think that would be a really powerful question to actually ask my kids. Both of them, they're very different. My kids are like night and day.
Okay.
Right? Their personalities are different. The way they see the world is very different. And I love that about them. Same thing with me and my brothers.
Yeah.
Like, we all grew up in the same household.
Totally different.
We all have completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
Now, we look alike, and our mannerisms and the way we speak are very similar, right? But when you ask us, when you get into the depth of a person's personality, they're very different. With my kids have challenged me from the moment they came into the world.
Yeah.
Both of them. They are brutally honest.
Yeah.
Okay, both of them. They have taught me more about myself than anything in this world ever has. And it's been through my communication with my kids that I have learned more about myself, and I have been able to take accountability for some of the things that, I might not have done right. And so in a positive way, I think that they know that they don't have to do what society says.
Yeah.
And both of them have actually proven that in the movements that they show on a daily basis. They question everything.
Yeah.
And I think their generation in general, okay, my generation, which you and I are in the same generation, I think we're kind of in betweeners. So my parents are boomers, where it was provision, it was survival. My generation is kind of like, okay, we're gonna work hard because that's what we were taught to do. But also, am I serving a purpose? Does what I'm doing matter? But I will still work hard, even if there's really not that much purpose behind it, to make sure things are taken care of.
Yeah.
My kids' generation is like, wait a minute. No, I have questions.
Yeah.
Like this whole ride or die. Wait a minute, I have questions.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? What's the point behind it? Does it serve a purpose? And I've watched them in that energy and that light. And so I think me doing what I've done has made them see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I see that as a positive thing. I see that as kind of a positive and negative because it could go many ways. But I think in that way it gave them permission, to see things differently, to be themselves. It's not that doesn't come without challenge though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being yourself. That's a it's a little taboo being yourself in this world when the world tells you to not be yourself, to be something you're not. And I move in my own light. I move exactly how I feel. I do my best to just be authentically myself. And I think doing that has given my kids permission to do the same.
Do the same thing. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Before we get out of here, let's talk to me about art in Bridgeport. Like what's going on? What's popping? What's happening? There's a lot of buildings. There's a lot. There's art all over the walls.
Yes.
There's a lot. You're excited. Yes. You're like, yes, let's go. Yes. Let's go. There's a lot going on. And I feel like a lot of people who live here don't know.
Oh.
I mean, they may see it, right? But they have no idea what's going on. And I don't know if that's a lack of people of artists being more vocal about it, or if it's a lack of the non-artists not actually like looking, right, to be educated on what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I think, art in general, I'm in a building where, we have 42 artists in the building, 38 studios, some are shared spaces.
Yeah.
And, respectively, we come in every day, we go into our spaces, we do what we do.
Yeah.
And artists are very solitary creatures most of the time.
Yeah.
Not always. Some are social, but most artists that you talk to,
yeah.
especially visual artists, we are very much in our own spaces and places. And so I think it's a combination of things, people not really knowing what's happening. It's a lack of communication from administration.
Yeah.
That's one big thing. And then, artists just kind of trying to get in where they fit in. What can I do? What can I be a part of? And so I think a lot is shifting right now because people want art.
Mm-hmm.
I think these last 3 years during the pandemic, people are understanding now. If they didn't understand before, they're understanding now the importance of art in community and what it does. It drives change. It brings healing. And so this is the space that, people might not recognize it right away, but when the pandemic happened, everybody turned to art.
Yeah.
Whether it be music, visual art, dance, whatever people needed to do to heal.
Yeah.
To get through their days while we were all locked up inside. Movies. These are all forms of art. And so in Bridgeport, there's a massive shift happening. And I dare not, everybody's scared of the G word. Everybody's scared of gentrification.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that, people see that on the horizon. But I also see a lot of really beautiful things happening with art and artists in the city. The value of art has always existed.
Yeah.
I don't think that everybody always saw the value of it. And now with what we're experiencing and what we're going through and what we have gone through, we're starting to understand how important it is. When you drive down a street and you see a mural on a wall, it changes your energy.
Yeah.
You could be in a really sad place. I actually was working on a mural on State Street, big green butterfly. And this woman, while I'm working on it, she pulls over and she's just like, I just came from a funeral of a childhood friend. And I was in a sad space. And I just had to pull over and tell you how seeing you out here painting this butterfly just completely shifted my mood.
Yeah.
And that's what art does, whether it be in the form of visual art, music. It's a universal language. It matters. And in Bridgeport right now, it is being brought to the surface, literally. And people are being given opportunities to bring their art outside on murals. Public art is so important. And I think it's being seen. And so now these opportunities, these call to artists like, hey, we want your artwork on the walls. I think it's something that the people have wanted for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now seeing it come to fruition is exciting.
Yeah.
I think administration even sees the importance of it. They see the shift that happens. They're seeing how people respond to these spaces that maybe weren't activated before. We weren't doing a whole lot in these spaces, but now, you put color in that space. I mean, Broad Street Steps.
Yeah.
That was it wasn't the first.
Yeah.
But Liz Squillaci, who has been public art, she's a public art. She's been doing it for a long time in Bridgeport. The mural that is in the underpass of the train station, that's Liz.
Okay.
The electrical boxes, that's Liz.
Yes.
The Broad Street Steps, that's Liz. She's the mastermind behind those things. And now being able to see, other artists, this whole kind of, putting it out there for other artists to have those opportunities. Those steps literally shifted the entire energy of that road. People go over there to do photo shoots.
Yes.
During the pandemic, there was a wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had to have it outside. There was a wedding on those stairs. And it's because of the colors. It's because people are drawn to it. It's because of the art. Mm-hmm. And so in Bridgeport, we have 5 buildings dedicated to artists, where there's artist studio, whether they be live workspaces or just workspaces. We have a lot of artists in this city. It's a city rich with arts and culture. Arts and culture is it's the blood of this city. And so seeing it come to the surface and seeing it come to fruition as an artist here, I can't even explain, driving or even walking, because I walk a lot now, and I walk and I see things that I didn't see before. And it brings attention to things that maybe you didn't notice. Yeah. This mural over here. And then people go over to like, oh my God, I've never seen that building. Or I didn't notice that was there before. And it's activating spaces and places that might not have been noticed in the way that they are now. Yes. So I think that the art is bringing the community together. Yeah. In such a beautiful way.
What's coming up? What's in the horizon?
So more public art.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to have some more public art popping up in different parts of the city. Yeah. Right now it's very concentrated to downtown. There'll definitely be some more downtown, but we're starting to explore, other places, because Bridgeport is a pretty big city. Yeah. We're the most populated city in the state of Connecticut. Uh-huh. And so we got a lot of people here, and we got a lot of people that got a lot to say and a lot to show and a lot to experience. And I feel like, there's going to be more. There's going to be more public art. I think there's going to be more opportunities for artists. I think there's going to be more opportunities for connection between, everyday people, and arts. I think people will be able to, tap into their own creative voices, whether they consider themselves artists or not. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be an artist to be able to express yourself. Yeah. And so I think there's going to be more opportunities for people to express themselves artistically, whether they're artists or not.
Now, I know every summer, there's always there's art festivals, the one that went on downtown. Around what time does that usually take place?
So Bridgeport Arts Fest hasn't happened in a few years, and I think that partially is because of COVID doesn't want us to do great.
Are we looking at maybe a comeback?
We're looking at a comeback. Yeah. We're looking at a comeback in 2023 for the Bridgeport Arts Fest. Okay. Not going to put dates out there yet.
No,
summer,
yeah.
Summer when it's warm out. DSSD has done an amazing job with the farmers market, keeping that going, and just in general. Colorful Bridgeport. If you guys don't know what Colorful Bridgeport is, follow Colorful Bridgeport. We got some really amazing things happening in downtown Bridgeport and beyond. And so more of that, more art in the community, more activation in the community, more public art, more art in general, more performance, more visual art, more all of it. There's too much of it here to not, shine a light on. Yeah. To not. So I think more art, more color, more public art, more opportunities for the community to tap in, more.
Yes.
And so, even with these call to artists and these very, public art projects, hoping that artists will give the community the opportunity to tap in and help where they can, more projects where everyday people are able to say, hey, I want to paint. I'm not a painter, but I want to paint. Yeah. I want to get involved in this. How do I get involved? Yeah. So more of that.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I saw that with you. I saw that with you on one of the underpasses. With the Bridgeport mural and folks coming and helping out. And I thought that was super cool. I mean, obviously you're probably setting the standard for them. Hey, this is what you're going to do or whatever. But that's cool because you get to now drive by and say, oh, I helped with that. Even if I just struck the brush a couple of times,
Yeah, they want to be a part of it. The community wants to be a part of it. Yeah. Whether people are artists or not, they want to drive by in 5-10 years and say, I did that. I helped with that. Yeah. And I'm actually right now working on a project over at at LifeBridge. I teach art at LifeBridge,
Yeah.
and we're actually creating a community mural literally inside. I learned about a material that enables us to create a mural inside, and so in the spring we're going to go and put it on the wall outside the building. So,
okay.
So we're developing a new mural, and that's going to be community based, because not only are the students, the scholars from the program working on the mural actively, they're the ones designing it. This is their project.
Yeah.
I'm just, me and Shauna Melton are overseeing the process. So not only are they actually creating this thing, but when we get ready to put it on the wall, there's going to be a community day where we say, hey, whoever you are, wherever you are in the community, come out and help us paint this. Come out and help us get it onto the wall.
Talk to me, I just thought about it. Talk to me a little bit about you and art during the pandemic. I interviewed DJ Santos. I don't know if you heard of, or DJ Santos. But I interviewed him last year, and we talked a little bit about the pandemic and how and how his passion and his love for music helped him get through the pandemic, right? Where he was kind of locked up at home, right, not being able to get out. But DJing for the camera gave him life, right? And he said in that interview, he talked about how it was then that he realized how much he needed people, right? For a long time, he was going into parties and DJing for people and whatnot. But it wasn't until he was by himself that he was like, "Oh man, I need the people," And so he was live, and watching people kind of like tune in really gave him life. So how did art and your love for it help you through the pandemic?
How didn't it? Literally, like I don't. I would not have survived the pandemic like so many other people without art.
Yeah.
Like it was my go-to, just like any other time I'm in crisis, or I got, whether I'm in a space of joy or crisis, art or creation is always, that's my go-to, in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
And so for me, it very much the same. At the time of the pandemic, I was getting email as a full-time artist. I'm getting email after email with canceled gigs. So I'm watching my money.
Yeah.
I'm literally like watching it just dissipate. Like, okay, that gig is gone. That gig is gone. And, that's money that I rely on to pay my bills, to eat, just like everybody else. And so, I didn't have this huge nest egg to fall back on. And so for me, turning to art, and not only for myself, but also sharing it with other people, right away, I was like, let me try to do something virtual. I had no clue how to do anything virtually.
Yeah.
I was guessing. I was like using my phone. My phone was overheating and doing crazy things. But I started to do these virtual classes, which was connecting me to people from all over. I literally had people in my class from India, Russia.
The power of the internet, huh?
Oh man, from all over the world. And I was just like, wow, the kids, I had 2 kids, brother and sister from Russia, that were joining my classes, did not speak English. Not only did they not speak it, they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
But they sat in my classes and they watched everything that I did, and they did it along with me and loved it.
Yeah.
For months this went on.
Yeah.
And so for me, the pandemic, it was really a blessing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, of course, tragedy. Like I lost a lot of loved ones, just like so many people. I got COVID, and that was an experience.
Yeah.
But it was such a blessing, because I think it forced us all to spend time with ourselves, which most people don't want to do. Right? If all of us really had to spend time with ourselves, it drives us crazy, because then we start to see all the, the things about us that we don't like. And it forced me to spend time with myself. It forced me to connect to people in a different way, in a way that I wasn't accustomed to. And so, and it forced me to just learn things. One thing that I've learned about myself is I adapt quickly.
Yeah.
I pivot quickly, and that comes from my childhood. I had to.
Yeah.
And so professionally, I'm constantly like, okay, what's my next move? What's my next move? And this wasn't even about profession. It wasn't even about how am I going to make money. I just started doing free classes. My spirit said to me, because I was like, I want to do virtual classes and maybe charge $10 a person. And all I heard was, no, do it for free.
Yeah.
And I was like, for free, and I've learned, when you get a feeling in your gut, I've learned to not question it. So I had a moment where I was like, for free? Like, I'm watching all my money go away.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, for free. Do it for free.
Yeah.
And so I did. I was like, okay, I'm just going to honor that. I'm going to follow through with that and be obedient to that. And I started doing these classes for free. And one day turned to 1 week, turned to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and eventually 11 weeks. And I want to say altogether, I don't know, like 52 classes.
Yeah.
It was definitely not something that I planned to do. But I gained so much knowledge about myself. It helped me in my creative process. It helps me to see what I do differently.
Yeah.
It helped me connect to people in a way, like I said, that I didn't before. And to this day, some of those students are still with me virtually.
You're still communicating, yeah.
And they pay me
Yeah.
now. And even then, like they started donating money to me
Yeah.
just because they were grateful to get that hour of respite, because these parents are at home trying to work from home and teach and like make sure their kids are doing what they have to do. It was impossible.
Yeah.
You know, people were really losing it. And so for this hour, they were able to get onto the computer and do something really cool and creative with me. And it gave them a respite. And so they were just grateful, and they would send me, $20, $30. And that enabled me to get groceries, pay my rent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, eventually it just grew. And now some of those same people are still with me, and they literally pay a monthly tuition for their kids to take virtual classes with me.
Wow. That's great.
And it, so art during the pandemic absolutely was my saving grace, and continues to be my saving grace every single day.
Yeah. It seems like every time you were going through a tough time throughout your life, it has always been there. That's amazing. How can we find you?
You can find me on my website, which is ArtSimplicated.
Okay.
So basically it's the word simple and complicated merged together.
Okay.
ArtSimplicated. It's two separate words. ArtSimplicated.com. I have a website. If you Google ArtSimplicated, on socials, ArtSimplicated on Instagram and Facebook. I'm on TikTok, but I'll be honest, I don't really know how to use it.
You better stop playing.
Listen.
We're going to talk after this.
Listen, a TikTok, I have it, and every once in a while I'll post something on there, but I'm not as engaged in TikTok as I need to be. But I do have a TikTok account.
Yeah.
But basically, if you just look up ArtSimplicated, they can contact, anybody can contact
me. Yeah,
if
you're watching this on YouTube, all the information will be in the box below, the description. It'll be everything with there. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or Google, it'll be there as well, so you can just find it.
Yeah.
So after this, you can send me all the information. I'll put it on there, and they can find you. Are you teaching?
I do teach. I teach a virtual class once a week, every Tuesday evening.
Okay.
And that's independently through my business. And then I teach through contract. So I have
we can hire you. I can hire you.
You could hire me.
Okay.
I am a full-time artist who is available for contract work and hiring. I do social paint events, like, what people call sip and paints.
Yeah.
I still do those.
Those are fun.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
So I still do sip and paints.
Especially for like non-artists. Like I feel like if you're like, that's so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. And that's kind of the idea of it. When I first saw them, I was kind of like,
yeah.
And then when I learned kind of, what it does for people, again, finding your the number one thing I hear is people say, I feel like a kid again.
Yeah.
We forget to play.
Yeah.
Adults forget to play.
It's funny because on TikTok yesterday, I made a short, 30-second video where my words of wisdom for the day were to continue to find a child in you, right? To continue to not let the child in you die, right? And not to be childish, but to be childlike.
Yes.
Because it's so important.
Yes.
It's so important. And when you were your kid, I was at the playground with my son, and it just I don't know, it's crazy when you watch the kids play, and obviously they ain't got no worries, right? But you're like, man, I want to have that still in my life.
And we have it.
Yeah, but
we have it. And I think as adults, we're taught that, like you said, don't be childish. Don't be childlike. Don't forget to play.
Yeah.
Like that little person still exists inside of every single one of us. When you see people gaming, people make fun of, like, there's a lot of people who are gamers and they spend time on game. Listen, they're nourishing their inner child.
Yeah.
I don't knock people for doing things that bring them joy.
Yeah.
For me, art brings me joy.
No, I get it.
And I feel like, we don't forget to play. Like, we are kids.
No, I get it. My older brother is a gamer. He's been a gamer all his life. And it's like, in a way, it's almost envious because he does what he loves to do every single day. He goes to work, but he goes back home. He give
yourself permission to play. Like, we have permission to play. You have permission to play.
Definitely. Now, a few questions before we get out. Not about art, but about you.
Mm-hmm.
First question is your favorite dish.
My favorite dish. Oh my gosh.
Do you not eat?
I do eat, but I do, but I eat a lot of things. So since I was a kid, people are gonna really, really laugh for this. I love salad.
Okay.
Salad is like my on a daily basis. I could eat salad.
Any particular type of salad?
Nah, man. Whatever I have, I'm kind of one of those throw whatever I have into it, and I love a good salad.
What about a spot? It could be in Bridgeport, it could be in Stanford, it could be anywhere.
So
To get that.
okay,
get that
so
salad.
I will tell you
For the salad.
in Stanford.
Okay.
All right, and any Stanford heads will know what I'm talking about. In Stanford, there is a restaurant that's been there forever and ever called Sergio's. It's Sergio's Pizza.
Okay.
It's on the east side, right off of exit 9.
You want a salad? Go there.
Every time I go to Stanford, I stop at Sergio's and I get it's just a regular salad.
Is it the salad or is it the customer service?
It's definitely not. No, it's definitely not the customer service. Man, if you call there, dude is like, Sergio's. Good people, though. They've been here forever. They're good people. It's the salad, man. I don't know what they put in it. I don't know the dressing. It's just a grilled chicken salad. You know, if you don't eat chicken, you know, you could just do the salad. I don't know what's in it, but they do like the mozzarella cheese and the chicken, and that just makes the salad.
Favorite genre of music?
I love neo soul.
Okay.
Neo soul and R&B are my favorite.
And what song right now is on repeat?
Ooh, right now.
It doesn't have to be neo soul. It could be just right now. What song?
I don't have a song on repeat right now, but my favorite song is a song called "I Am Light" by India.Arie.
Okay,
that's a song. It's like an affirmation song that I
so
I play.
It is not a
regularly.
new song. Clearly,
it's not a new song.
Okay.
It's been around for a really long time. I'm not gonna lie. Renaissance has been on repeat by Beyonce. That song, not the song, the whole album. Has been on repeat. It's on my workout playlist and just in general. I don't consider myself in the beehive. But I so respect her as an artist, and her artistry is ridiculous. Like I still, Black is King. Just like visually. I watch it for inspiration. I love her message through the music. And so if I have an album on repeat right now, it's definitely Renaissance.
Hustle is a word that can have positive connotations to it and also negative. What does hustle mean to you?
Hustle means hard work. In whatever capacity, plain and simple. I have hustled a lot of my life, and it could come with negative connotations, but hustle just basically means you do what you got to do to get the work done. And
mom taught you hustle.
Yeah, man. Both, but mom
and dad.
My mom and dad are both really hard workers. Their work ethic, especially my dad, it's ridiculous. My dad's been working since he was 5 years old. You know, he grew up down south and he worked in the tobacco fields, and so he's been working his whole life. He's to this day he's still working. He just doesn't. He's a mover, man. He doesn't know how to stay still. And so my work ethic is insane because of my parents.
So we kind of wrapped it up. You know, we started with the parents in home and we're there again. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. And that's it. We're done.
Thank you.